Hey folks, and welcome to CarStarz' 10 Cool Facts About Coy's 70 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am in the 1976 film Cannonball, and also Happy Labor Day. Fact number 1. There were two primary 1970 Pontiac Trans Ams sourced for the film, and technically a third 74 disguised as a 70 used briefly for stand-in shots and backup that has its own separate story that we'll get into more about later on. The production put the two matching 70 Trans Ams at the center of the story from the start, although both of the primary Trans Ams were used interchangeably for the most part, with multiple cars on hand. First unit could shoot dialogue and close passes while another car staged rolling material or repositioned without slowing the shoot. That sourcing strategy gave the picture car coordinator flexibility and insurance. If one car needed repair, tires, or routine attention after a hard run, another could step in immediately and keep cameras rolling. It also let the crew split tasks, one car traveling to the next location while another handled pickups. The result is portraying a hero vehicle that appears mostly consistent across the film's highway racing and stunt sequences. Fact number 2. The two primary 70 Trans Ams ran their stock Ram Air 3400 V8 engines, factory rated at 345 gross horsepower, paired to a 4-speed manual transmission, plenty of power to match up to the requirements of the shoot, so the on-screen performance rings authentic without having to lean on aftermarket performance parts for aid. On the road, the 400 and a 4-speed make a very straightforward driver-focused combination. You hear the motor climb, see hands working the shifter, and the car surges cleanly through gears and rolling takes. That audible rhythm helps sell speed in quick cutaways and long highway pulls. It looks and sounds like a real 1970 Trans Am should, which is why the footage still plays convincingly when cut between units and locations. The 74 Trans Am Super Duty 455 that we don't see much of on screen ran at stock 455 V8, but being a 74 model, the bigger engine of course didn't mean bigger power output with a rating of 290 net horsepower. That car was also a 4-speed and handled some driving duties for the shoot when schedules were tight. Fact number 3. The second-generation Firebird Trans Am, 1970 through 1981, was built on GM's F-body with a low hood line, crisp fender peaks, and the signature shaker scoop on performance models. Early cars wore simple twin stripes, then the famous rising Phoenix Bird hood graphic arrived as an option in 1973 and quickly became the model's calling card. The body evolved steadily, with a urethane nose in 1974 for better crash compliance, and a 1977 facelift that brought dual rectangular headlamps, revised grills, and a sharper, more modern face. Pontiac leaned hard into chassis tuning to keep the Trans Am's handling performance at the front of its class. Spring and sway bar calibrations, quick steering, and wide factory tires made the car feel planted at highway speeds. The WS6 handling package arrived in 1978 and bundled the best bits, and by 1979, 4-wheel disc brakes were available, giving the Trans Am confident stopping power to match its long-legged cruising manners. Powertrains mirrored the era's shifts without losing character. Early years featured high-performance V8s, including Ram Air packages, followed by a focus on drivability and meeting emissions regulations as the decade progressed. Special editions with black paint, gold striping, and snowflake wheels turned the car into a pop culture icon thanks to the popular 1977 film Smokey and the Bandit. Late Generation even introduced a turbocharged 4.9-liter V8, keeping the Trans Am relevant through 1981. Fact number 4. The lesser-used third car I mentioned earlier was actually one of David Carradine's personal cars he supplied for the shoot, a 1974 Trans Am Super Duty 455, a fairly rare model with less than 1,000 built for that model year. The crew dressed it to match the early second-generation appearance on screen by adding a 1973 front end and of course the same red race scheme as the other two cars. One limiting detail that set it apart from the other two, however, was its white interior, while the others had black interiors. That difference shaped how the car was filmed and the distance it could be shot from. On set, the car reportedly served some external footage duty, more distant and/or low-angle shots so the camera couldn't get a peek into the different color cockpit. Interior close-ups and in-car dialogue were covered with the black interior Trans Ams, preserving a consistent cabin view whenever the audience was inside the car. So, when the 270 model Trans Ams were tied up with other shots, crews used Carradine's Trans Am for exterior and second unit highway shots sparingly. Fact number 5. As for the general modifications made to the cars for their role, the team unified all 3 cars with a full refinish in bright red paint, then laid a blue center stripe edged in yellow and matched door and fender decals. The result was a single visual exterior identity the editors could depend on, no matter which unit supplied a shot or how quickly cars rotated through a setup. At least one of the cars had sturdy attachment points added behind the grille for tow rigs, giving the crew stable, vibration-free pulls at speed to capture certain shots and dialogue scenes. When a shot demanded extra ground clearance, low front pieces like the front spoiler were removed and refitted as needed. This practical rigging kept the picture cars controllable with lenses inches away, captured clean sound, and let the second unit stage repeat highway runs if needed without beating up the hardware. Mechanical prep focused on consistency and reliability for long highway takes. Tires and brakes were kept fresh, fluids and cooling were serviced, and alignment were matched so each car steered and tracked the same. The aim was predictability over outright speed, making any unit ready to step in for a take and feel familiar to the driver. That baseline preparation is why the Trans Am appears relentlessly present in the film without any major hiccups, even as cars rotated behind the scenes. Fact number 6. Despite their best efforts, viewers can still spot some minor inconsistencies across the Trans Am trio. Although they did a pretty good job of concealing the most obvious difference, which would be the white interior car, other small details slip through the cracks at times. In some shots the front spoiler is present and in others it is missing. Apparently sometimes they forgot to reattach it for some scenes that it should have been on. That's the easiest consistency error to spot, but not the only one. Decal placements are another subtle difference. The door and fender sticker stacks are not mirrored the same from left to right, along with the order and spacing shifts slightly between sides also. This reveals that although all painted the same, the car's decals were either dressed separately from each other at different times, or perhaps were just rushed jobs. A clue from the repaint from the hero car's original colors also show up a bit in hidden edges. A quick trunk pop view reveals remnants of an earlier white finish under the red top coat, especially along the deck lid lip and hinge posts. Those little telltales confirm that at least one of the 70 cars was resprayed from the factory cameo white color. Fact number 7. As we all witnessed on screen, one of the 270 Trans Ams has a clear destructive fate, as it is both wrecked and also blown up, so this one was certainly written off. That explosive sequence leaves no ambiguity that at least one of the production's 1970 cars was indeed sacrificed directly on camera. The second 70 Trans Am, although not blown up like the other one, was also wrecked within the film. Post-production, there's no reliable public record tying a specific VIN or surviving chassis to the screen-used 1970 model cars. No studio notes, picture car registries, or major auction catalogs documented screen-verified 1970 Cannonball Trans Ams. However, considering how the cars were used for the heavily damaging stunt work and have vanished from records post-production, it's safe to say that both cars were scrapped after their use for the movie. Fact number 8. So, now you're probably wondering, did any Trans Am involved in the shoot actually survive then? Well, yes, David Carradine's 74 Trans Am, although not completely unscathed, did indeed live on after. In fact, it came up for auction just this year. Mecum auctioned the car at Kissimmee on January 18th, and it crossed the block as a rough but rare SD 455 4-speed example with documentation right on the lot page. The Trans Am was documented as coming from Carradine's Studio City fleet for the 1976 production of Cannonball, and it referenced paperwork and service receipts in his name. The listing leaned on continuity with the film's look, calling out the nose treatment that matched the early style used on camera and noting that the car served among the picture cars during highway material, which is exactly the kind of traceable background serious bidders expect to see. The sale results certainly confirmed the interest too. The car sold at a quite hefty $203,500. Auction coverage logged the lot, VIN, date, and price, and the buzz reflected a rare blend of elements: Super Duty power, a manual gearbox, and a verified connection to a classic 1970s car film, and of course to the legendary David Carradine himself as well. Fact number 9. As for full-scale fan replicas of the Cannonball Trans Am, there doesn't seem to be many out there, probably due to the general lack of popularity of the film, but it wouldn't be too hard to accomplish as it's mostly just a solid color paint job, some pinstriping, and a few decals on an early second-gen Trans Am. However, I did come across a couple fan-built attempts anyway. Here looks to be a decent replica, however this is the only pic I could even find of it online with no additional details for us to investigate further, but sure looks pretty cool though regardless. Besides that, here looks to be another tribute car. They went a bit different path wheel style wise, but it does certainly have the livery and is quite decent looking as well. I suppose that most folks that wanted a replica of this movie car just went the cheaper scale model route instead, which we'll look into next. Fact number 10. Looking into the scale model world, although there doesn't seem to be any direct replica models of the car released, there are quite a lot of Pontiac Trans Am models out there in general, so let's take a look at some of the best options available for this case. Probably the best highest detail second generation diecast Trans Am option in general available to date would be these excellent 1/18 scale 72 Trans Am models from Auto World that can be had for around the $100 mark on the current retail market. The best quality second generation Firebird plastic model kit available would be this 1/24 scale 1970 Firebird model kit from Revell for around $45 on the current retail market. I bet some of you talented model builders out there could whip up a great replica of the Cannonball Trans Am with it as the builder of this fine model replica did here. I will put links in the description below to where you can get the Auto World and Revell models for those interested. By the way folks, I recently started a new and also film related and similar format YouTube channel called Mind Litter. If anyone is interested in hearing more about our favorite movies and TV shows beyond just the cars, such as other behind the scenes info, filming locations, and actor related tidbits and such, I will put a link in the description below for those interested in checking it out. Well, there you have it folks. Thanks for watching and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you like what you saw here. You guys are all great. See you next time.